to Sewing 101 with me, Brittany Schrader. Today I'd like to take you through the steps that I took in order to learn how to sew Christmas stockings for my family. I decided to choose sewing, and specifically sewing Christmas stockings because, well, for one, I do not know how to sew. The last time I have used a sewing machine was in 8th grade in my home ec class. And I am guilty of the whole Pinterest craze, and I see all these fantastic projects that are done using sewing, and I wanted to be able to learn how to sew to maybe be able to do some of those projects. After I borrowed a sewing machine from a friend, I began searching sewing machine how-tos. I needed to figure out how to thread the machine, how to wind the bobbin, and how to thread the bobbin. So primarily I used YouTube as well as some blogs that were for just beginner sewers. The best help I found was on YouTube because it offered some visuals for me to go through, and I could stop and play as I was trying to figure out what I was doing. I began struggling when the underthread in my machine began getting tangled. I searched all forums on YouTube, on tutorials. Most of them said rewind the bobbin or fix the tension, and I probably played around with it for 3 to 4 hours trying to figure it out. So finally I took it back to the friend that I borrowed it from, and we came to the conclusion that the machine was broken. So I had to borrow another machine from another friend, and then it was really, I would say, fairly smooth sailing from then. So I found a blog called Sew Like My Mom, and a couple of great things about this blog is that it had exactly the same type of stockings that I wanted to make. It also had a great materials list. It had step-by-step pictures for the whole process, and it also had a printable template that I could use and just put together at home, so I didn't have to go buy one or make one myself. And so that's what you see here. I have my template, and I now have all the pieces of fabric that I need to create my stocking. I would like to take you briefly through all the steps that I took to create my Christmas stocking. The first thing that I did was to pin the cuff of my stocking onto one of my foot pieces of the stocking. I actually had to do this to both sides, the inside and outside, and I had to do it to each side of the stocking. Here I have my first set of fabric pinned. In order to begin sewing, usually you have to have the thread threaded and the bobbin wound and the bobbin inserted in the machine. I already have all that stuff prepped, so we are ready to go. The first stitches that I'm making are to begin sewing the cuff onto my stocking. So you saw that I went forward and back, and that is simply to make the stitches in the seam stronger so they don't come out. Some of the hardest things I've come across as I've been sewing is sewing in a straight line. It takes a little bit of practice on that. Luckily, sometimes when you're sewing on the inside, you turn it inside out, so it's a little forgiving if you're not a perfect seamstress. I just sewed together all of the pieces of my stocking. I have the inside fabric, the cuff, and the outside fabric, and I actually have 2 pieces of that. I also sewed together the ribbon that my stockings will hang from. And this little guy has given me so much struggle because I keep pinning it in the wrong place. So finally, this will be my 4th stocking that I made. I got it right on the 3rd time, so I should be getting it right this time. Now that I've sewn the cuffs together, I need to pin each side of my stocking to prep for sewing. I'm going to begin sewing on the toe part of the lining. That way, when I come all the way around, I can leave a little opening for later to turn my stocking inside out. One of the most technically difficult things that I've experienced is turning the corners while sewing. My next step is to turn my fabric inside out and then sew the end of my stocking. Our last and final step is to turn the stocking inside out and fold the cuff over to reveal our final and finished product. And there you have it.